Good evening, friends. My name is Prince Pahal from Aussizz Migration. I'm back again with another Facebook Live session today. Today we will be discussing few options available for IT, engineering, accounting, and trade occupations applicants or candidates. So basically the main reason we are doing this Facebook Live session today is to make you aware what are the requirements for states to get you eligible. Like at this tough time, it's not possible or it's not easy to get a 189 invitation from Department of Immigration. So how do you meet the requirements, considering like there are very high points requirement for IT, engineering, and accounting students or applicants? How do you meet the state requirements? How do you get eligible to apply for nominated visa, which would be one of them would be state nomination visa 190 or state nominated regional visa, which is 489 visa. So we will be discussing the requirements for different states today, like ACT state nomination, which is Canberra, which is one of the hot topic nowadays, and Tasmania, New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland state nomination, and Northern Territory, and South Australia and Victoria as well. So I will be covering pretty much most of the requirements for all the states, but I'm pretty much sure you all are aware of it's not easy for me to cover each and every single thing for every single occupation, but I'll try my best to cover up most of the common occupations like IT, accounting, engineering, and trade occupations. So to start with, let's start with one of the first state, which is very common nowadays. A lot of applicants come to us and they ask for the ACT state nomination requirements. So ACT is basically, when we talk about ACT state nomination, we're talking about Canberra, which falls in between. It's not far from Sydney, maybe a couple of hours drive from Sydney, and a few hours drive from Melbourne if you're living in Melbourne. So there, depending what your occupation is, so I'll try to cover up generic requirements first, and then I'll focus on IT, engineering, accounting, and trade occupations. Just to start with, I'll go with the general requirement for ACT state nomination. So the first requirement is that to be eligible for ACT state nomination, you must have been living in Canberra for about 12 months. So that's the first requirement ACT state government will be looking for. If you've been living in Canberra for 12 months, that's the very first step you need to follow. And the second step, say if you're on a student visa or 457 visa, or if you are studying like a master's or bachelor's from Canberra, there are different options available to you. But the minimum requirement is that you must have been living in Canberra for 12 months to get eligible to apply for state nomination. Now, if you're on 485 visa, let's take an example for applicants who have completed their master's course in IT, engineering, or accounting. So if they've done their course, they've applied for postgraduate visa, which is 485 visa, and now they're preparing themselves or making themselves eligible to apply for 189 or 190 visa. So with ACT, the best thing is that, if you have been, if you have completed your studies and you've got your 485 visa, now, if you manage to find a job in your own occupation and if you work in Canberra for about 6 months, you get eligible to apply for state nomination. So, if you need to know, obviously for accounting students, it's not open for accounting, this is especially for accountants. If the accounting is not open at the moment in ACT, but it doesn't mean that you're not eligible to apply for ACT state nomination. So basically, if you find a job in Canberra as an accountant, so if you've been if you can prove it to the state government that you've been working in Canberra for about 6 months, then definitely, even if the occupation is closed, definitely your application has got very good chances to be successful. So you may get an invitation to apply for state nomination. So regardless if your occupation is open or closed, if you've been working in Canberra for about 6 months in a nominated occupation, there is always a good chance you may be eligible to receive an invitation for state nomination. So this is for the occupation which are closed. Even if you're working in your occupation, there is a good chance. But for the occupations which are open, so one of the other requirements is that if the occupation is in the ACT nomination list, if you if you're living in Victoria, Sydney, or Queensland or any other state, if you relocate to Canberra and if you study there for minimum 1 year, and when I say minimum 1 year, so it has to be minimum certificate 3 course you got to study in Canberra. for 1 year, and 1 year would be calculated minimum 46 weeks if I'm not wrong. 46 weeks. If you study there for minimum 46 weeks, you get eligible to apply for state nomination as long as you can prove that you worked in Canberra for minimum 6 months full time if you're on a 485 visa. So you got to prove it to the state government department that you have worked 6 months minimum full time if you're on a 485 visa, or if you're on a student visa, part-time work will be considered as well. So just to rephrase it again, if you are on 485 visa, if you move to Canberra, if you study there for minimum 1 year or 1 academic year, minimum qualification would be Cert 3. And say if you do a diploma of business or leadership management for 1 year course, and if you prove that you have worked in any field, like it doesn't have to be in your nominated occupation, as long as the job you have been doing, falls between skill level 1 to 4. To find out more information about what occupations falls under skill level 1 to 4, you can Google it. What are the occupations? Say if you've been working, just to give you an example, as a taxi driver in Canberra, so that falls under skill level 4, so that should be okay. But you got to prove to the state government that you have completed 1 year of studies in Canberra and you've been working minimum 6 months full time. And that makes you eligible to apply for state nomination in Canberra if you're on 485 visa. So 485 visa, you got to show full-time experience for 6 months minimum and 1 year of study in Canberra. So a lot of applicants are moving to Canberra because obviously, for accounting, engineering, and IT students, it's not easy to get an invitation with 75 points. This is basically a bonus for those people who are struggling with PT or IELTS score and who are not meeting the enough points requirement from Department of Immigration for 189 visa. So your second option would be to look at the options for your state requirements. See if you are eligible to apply for any state nomination application or not. So this is for 485 and student visa holders who are studying in Canberra. There is a good option for them to apply for a state nomination in ACT. Now, if you're studying in Canberra, like if you're studying your bachelor's or master's course in Canberra, so again, you got to show that you've been working, you've been living there for 12 months. And at the same time, you just got to show, if you're studying master's or bachelor's, you just got to show that you've been working part-time minimum for 6 months before, that makes you eligible to apply for. So basically, just the main requirements is that you must have been living in Canberra for 1 year, and you must have completed at least 1 year of course, and you got to prove that you've got 6 months of minimum full-time experience in Canberra in any field. Like when I say any field, skill level 1 to 4, minimum 6 months full time. If you're on a student visa, you can, your part-time work, which is 20 hours a week, will be considered as full time. So 3 requirements: living in Canberra for 12 months, 1 year of studies in Canberra for 12 months, or 1 year studies or 12 months study in Canberra, and minimum 6 months of experience in Canberra. And that can be in between skill level 1 to 4. Now, if you are in Canberra and if you've been working in Canberra and you've been on 457 visa in Canberra, so again, same thing applies to you. If you've been living in Canberra for 12 months, that's one of the thing. If you're on 457 in Canberra, and second thing, you must have been working in a nominated occupation for 6 months. So just remember, if you are watching this Facebook live session and if you have an option, or if you are in Canberra and if you're working in Canberra in a nominated occupation, once you have 6 months of experience and if you have lived in Canberra for 12 months, there is a good option for you to apply for, for the state nomination application. Now, majority of the clients ask me this thing: what are the chances, that accounting will be open down the track? Well, it's hard for us to say whether accounting will, like Canberra or ACT state government will, reopen the accounting option or not for the accounting graduates. But like I mentioned before, even if your occupation is closed, you're still eligible to apply for the state nomination application, as long as you have been working in a field for 6 months. So this is only for applicants who've got a bit of experience in their own field and it's easy for them to find a job. But even if you don't have experience and if you go to Canberra, study there is a good chance for you to, you never know, maybe after a year, if the accounting option comes onto the list and, you may be eligible to apply for those occupations which are not on the list at the moment, which falls under closed list. So that's about ACT state nomination criteria. So moving on to next, we will be talking about Victoria. So Victoria is one of the favorite state for states. I would say for trade occupations. So Victoria is beneficial. First of all, let's start with Victoria requirements before I go ahead with all the other requirements. So with Victoria, first of all, if you have been working in Victoria on 457 visa. So I'll be trying my best to cover up as much as I can today, but I hope all of you who are watching this Facebook Live session, it's not easy for me to cover up each and every single thing. Definitely every case is different. If you have any particular question about your particular case, please ring our office to find out more about your options available to you. So this is based now. I'm going to start about Victoria requirements. So let's start with Victoria requirement for 457 visa holders. So like recently, we all know that there have been a lot of changes on 457 visa from 1st of July 2017, and there are going to be a lot of changes from next year. But this is a very good option for people who have been working in Victoria on 457 visa. So if you've been working in Victoria for 457 visa, if you have got an experience, like if you got experience for minimum of, you got an experience of 1 year within the last 3 years. So basically, if you got your visa approved, 457 visa approved last year as a, say, restaurant manager, or as a cook or a chef, if your 457 visa was approved last year, obviously you would have your experience by now for about 1 year. So if you have been on 457 visa and you got experience for 1 year, there is there is a direct stream that leads to the Victoria State nomination. So Victoria State government has always given the preference to the people who have been on 457 and been working in Victoria for last 1 year. So if you are on 457 visa and you've got minimum 1 year of experience in last 3 years, there is an option. I would say there are options available to you to apply for Victoria State nomination, depending what your occupation is. So I would say this is specifically for those people who are on 457 visa. If you've got 1 year of experience, please get in touch with your migration agent or contact one of our offices to find out what are the options available to you if you're residing in Victoria. Now, one of the other options for IT, accounting, and engineering, I'm talking about the general requirements. So I'll be focusing more on IT, accounting, and what are the options for them. But a lot of the IT, accounting, and engineering occupations require 7 each in IELTS PTE, to be eligible, or a minimum work experience requirement to be eligible to apply for Victoria State nomination. So if you're struggling with your, say, PT or IELTS score, if you haven't managed to get 7 each in IELTS, but if you have an employer who's willing to give you a job, or if you're currently working, you can be exempted for English requirements. So with Victoria, if you already got a job offer letter, or if you've been working in your field for minimum 6 months, that English requirement for 7 each can be waived off. So when I say waived off, you can be exempted from that. So basically, if you have got a job offer letter from it, just to give you an example, like if I'm an engineer, say electrical engineer, if I'm looking for a job, I found a job, someone is willing to give me a job as an electrical engineer, but at the same time I'm struggling to get 7 each because I'm not meeting enough points, because the requirement for electrical engineer is 7 each. But if I'm struggling to get the score, but at the same time I have a job offer letter, that makes me eligible to apply for Victoria State nomination, and the English requirement may be exempted. So like I said, different occupation, different requirements, different state with different requirements. Again, we need to check what's your criteria. For a particular case, if you are from IT, accounting, or engineering, what are the requirements for that? Majority of the IT occupations have got that option. If you can show that you've been working 6 months and you got a job offer letter in your own field, nominated field, you get eligible to apply for a state nomination. So that's the requirement for English exemption in Victoria. And definitely to apply for Victoria State nomination, majority of the occupation do need a job offer letter. That's the mandatory requirement. If you want to apply for Victoria State nomination, you need a job offer letter from an employer who are willing to give you a job for next, say, 12 months. So it can be, your job offer letter do not have to be full-time. It can be minimum 20 hours a week. So if you can prove it to the department, or if you can provide an evidence that you got a job offer letter from an employer and they're happy to give you a job for, and even if you work 20 hours a week, that should be considered as a full-time and you get eligible to apply for Victoria State nomination. Now, for PhD graduates from Victoria, obviously that's the easiest part for PhD graduates from Victoria. I mean, they do not need any job offer letter, and if you have done PhD from the university in Victoria, you get eligible to apply for state nomination directly. There is no as such requirement for a job offer letter, which is a bonus for I would say Victorian PhD graduates. Now, talking about the IT, accounting, and engineering occupations. With Victoria, let's talk about engineering first. With Victoria, at the moment we've got civil engineering, electrical engineering, and mechanical engineering. These occupations are open at the moment, but the thing is that it requires for you to have a minimum 7 H&Ls or PTE, and you have to have minimum 2 years of relevant experience in your nominated field. So civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and last but not the least is engineering technologies. So all these occupations are open for Victoria State nomination, but you got to have 7 each with 2 years of work experience. Now, talking about IT, majority of the occupations with IT requires you to have minimum 7 each and 3 years of experience plus job offer. So, like I mentioned before, if you can provide an evidence to the state government that you've been working in your nominated occupation for the last 6 months, and you have a job offer letter from a prospective employer who is willing to give you a job in your nominated occupation, that English requirement for 7 each can be exempted, and you may not have to provide the experience for 3 years. So, because you fall into a different category if you go ahead with that. So I'll repeat it again. For engineering, civil, electrical, mechanical, and engineering technologies, majority of the clients have come across with, even if they've done electronic engineering or electrical engineering and they've applied to Engineers Australia for a professional engineering outcome, like professional engineer outcome, they haven't been successful to get an outcome as a professional engineer. So I'm pretty much sure a lot of engineers out there would have been in the same situation where they got the outcome from Engineers Australia as an engineering technologist, rather than getting an outcome for a professional engineer. So this is again a good option for them. Like, even if you got an outcome from as an engineering technologist, it is still the Victoria State nomination is still there, and if you can prove yourself that you got some experience, you can apply for Victorian State nomination. Now, talking about the trade occupations, the favorites are cook, chef, baker, motor mechanic. So all these occupations are open for Victoria State nomination. Depending which occupation you apply for, there are certain additional requirements for that particular occupation. So for trade occupation, majority of the occupations require you to have 6 each, plus minimum, I would say, 3 years of experience, depending what occupation it is, but majority of the occupations require 5 years of experience. So if it's cook, chef, you have to have 5 years of experience. And again, on top of that, you need to have a job offer letter from an employer as well who's willing to provide a job for next 12 months in Victoria. So I'll rephrase it again for Victoria State nomination. For IT, majority of the occupations are open there. You have to have 7 each with minimum 3 years of experience plus job offer letter. For engineering, civil, electrical, mechanical, and engineering technologists are open. You need 7 each plus 2 years of experience plus a job offer letter from the employer. Now, for trade occupations, cook, chef, baker, motor mechanic, you need to have minimum 5 years of experience plus job offer letter, and you have to have minimum 6 each. And if you fall under the category of trade occupations. So this is for the Victoria State nomination. So let's move on to the next one, which is Queensland. That's not a bad option either. So if you are living interstate and if you do not know much about Queensland, what are the requirements for Queensland state nomination? I'll cover that up. I'll try to cover as much as I can for Queensland. So there are 3 different categories when we talk about Queensland state nomination. So basically, if you're working in Queensland, or if you're if you're currently working in Queensland in your nominated occupation, what are the options available to you? And if you have recently completed your master's degree from Queensland University, what are the options available to you? And at the same time, if you are interstate candidates, what are the additional requirements? So say if you're living in Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia, what are the additional requirements you need to meet to be eligible to apply for Queensland state nomination criteria? So with Queensland, first of all, let's start with the applicants who have been working in Queensland, in their nominated occupation. So let's talk about 190, which is state nominated visa. So if you've been working in Queensland for minimum 6 months, all right, I think we're back again. We had some internet issues, so sorry about the disturbance in between. So yeah, so I was talking about the Queensland state government requirements to be eligible for Queensland state nomination. So this is basically for applicants who've been working in Queensland in their nominated occupation. So general requirements: if you've been working in a nominated occupation for last 6 months, that makes you eligible to apply for 190 state nomination. But again, what occupation it is, we need to check if there are certain requirements you need to meet or not. Now, for 489, you have to have minimum 4 months of experience, but again, that has to be in regional area. So, if you do not have enough points to apply for, 190 visa, but you do have experience, or if you've been working for last 4 to 6 months in your nominated occupation, but if you've been working in Brisbane rather than in regional area, you unfortunately you're not eligible to apply for a state nomination application. Reason being, you have to have an experience in a regional area, minimum 4 months. So then only you get eligible to apply for state nomination application. So for 190, you have to have minimum 6 months of experience. For 489, you have to have minimum 4 months of experience in your nominated occupation. And on top of that, you have to have a job offer letter from your employer or any prospective employer who's willing to give you a job offer letter for further 12 months. So 2 requirements for 190, 6 months of experience in a nominated field. For 489, minimum 4 months of experience in a regional area plus job offer letter. So job offer letter, either you go for 190 or 489 visa, you need a job offer letter from for both of these visa, either 190 or 489. Now, for recent graduates, so if you have completed your master's degree, unfortunately, this is one of the thing I would like to bring in your notice, because if you have completed bachelor's from Queensland University, I'm afraid to say you're not eligible to apply under this category, because it's only for master's or PhD graduates. So if you have done your master's from a Queensland University, and depending what your occupation, if it falls under QSOL list, which is there is a specific list for Queensland graduates. If your occupation falls under that list, you get eligible to apply for state nomination, but the only requirement is that you have to get a job offer letter from an employer. So just to say, let's talk about accounting. We had a couple of occupations, accounting of recent Queensland graduates, there were a few occupations available before, but unfortunately those occupations have been closed for the time being. We haven't got any update from Queensland state government when they're going to reopen those occupations. So we had management accountant open before, and we had ICT system analyst and ICT business analyst open, but it's not open at this stage. But by all means, if you can secure a job in these occupations, maybe 3 or 4 months down the track, they may reopen these occupations, and there's a good chance you may be eligible to apply for Queensland state nomination application. Now, this is especially for accounting students. So if you got accounting background, there is an occupation. If you're a recent graduate from Queensland, if you recently completed your master's from Queensland, if you're on 485 visa, or if you have applied for 485 visa, there is an occupation called finance manager that falls under the list of QSOL for recent master graduates from Queensland. So if you already got your degree assessed, from CPA or ICAA as an accountant general or management accountant, still you can go with finance manager, because if you're working as a finance manager in a company, or if you got an employer who's willing to offer you a job as a finance manager, I would strongly suggest if you can go for this option. You can get your degree assessed as a finance manager, because when we look at the requirements for finance manager, pretty much all the mandatory subjects are covered for finance manager. Even if you have got your degree assessed as an accountant or as a management accountant. So if you go for finance manager, the option is there. Now, for PhD graduates, if you've done a PhD from Queensland, there is no job offer letter requirement. So basically, If you're a master graduate, obviously you do need a job offer letter. If you have done PhD from Queensland University, you do not need a job offer letter, and you straight away get eligible to apply for Queensland state nomination. So I've discussed so far working, if you're currently working in Queensland, and secondly, if you have completed your master's recently from Queensland University. So I would say, I mean, if you're not sure what if you get onto Queensland state government website, you can see, all right, what are the occupations available for IT, accounting and engineering. But there are not many at the moment, but we had few in the past, but those occupations has been closed down for the time being. So we are still waiting. They may reopen those occupations, and if they do so, we will definitely come. If you just keep an eye on our Facebook page, if you are on our Facebook page, just keep an eye on it. We'll probably update if anything like that comes up in future. Now, for interstate candidates, if you're living in a different state, depending what your occupation is, like what occupation you're going to apply. Most of the occupation for interstate candidates, most of the occupations in Queensland requires you to have minimum 2 years of experience. So this is minimum. Again, depending what occupation particularly you're looking for, there may be additional requirements. So, if you are interstate, like just to give you an example for trade occupation, if you're interstate, you have to have minimum 6 years of experience. But if you're working in Queensland, you have to have, let's talk about cook. If you're working interstate, not working. If you're living interstate, like say if you're living in Victoria and you want to get eligible to apply for Queensland state nomination, you have to have minimum 6 years of experience to be eligible to apply for Queensland state nomination, But again, at the same time, cook is only available for 489. 190 is not open at this stage. And that same goes for the other trade occupation like chef and motor mechanic. So 489 is available at the moment, but not 190. But like I said, I mean, it's hard for me to cover each and every single occupation, but the whole idea behind doing this Facebook Live session is to make you aware what are the generic requirements for the state, state nomination application. So you may be eligible for a different state, but just to get you aware, okay, what are the requirements for a particular state, whether you fall under that category for that particular state or not, and whether you're eligible to apply for that particular state or not. So just to get you aware of all these requirements. But like I said, I mean, if you have any particular question about your requirements for the state, you can always get in touch with us or either of our offices. So I've talked about interstate applicants as well. I'll just see if I can give you more information about recent graduates in Queensland. So finance manager, like I mentioned before, if you got an accounting background, you can go for finance manager. Now, if you've completed, say, MBA, which is like I've seen a lot of applicants in Queensland who have done an MBA, recent MBA graduates. If you've done that, and there is an occupation called marketing specialist. If you can prove, or if you not prove, basically, if you can manage to get a skill assessment, positive skill assessment, and a job offer letter from an employer, if you got an employer who's willing to give you a job offer letter as a marketing manager, considering you've got a positive skill assessment, even with 55 points, you get eligible to apply for 190, which is a state nomination application. Now, in Queensland, talking about engineering, we got a civil engineer and structural engineering open at this stage. So that's the current scenario I'm talking about. So if you've done civil engineering, in last 1 year or so, if you got a positive skill assessment, all you should be trying for is to I would say strongly suggest you you just put in your best effort to find out a job offer letter if you can manage so, because that makes you eligible to apply for 190 state nomination application, which is direct permanent residency application. Now, structural engineering, that's one of the other occupation which is open in Queensland at this stage. Again, you need a job offer letter, and if you're a recent graduate, you get eligible to apply for that as well. Now, for IT, there are two occupations which I've come across recently. One is network administrator, which is open, depending IT, if you've got an IT background, depending what are the subjects you've done in your studies, if you've got networking subjects, like if you did masters, if you've done networking subjects in your masters, I would strongly recommend go for network administrator or network analyst. These are the two occupations which are still on the Queensland recent graduates list. So I would strongly suggest if you can get your degree assist or from ACS as a network administrator or as a network analyst, and as long as you can provide the job evidence or job offer letter to the state government, I'm pretty much sure you would be able to get a state. There's a very good chance you will be receiving an invitation from the state government, Queensland state government. So let me rephrase it again. Accounting, finance manager is one of the option. MBA holders, MBA who have done MBA, marketing specialist is the second option. For engineering, civil and structural engineering. For IT students, network admin, like network administrator or network analyst. These are the two occupations on, recent graduates list. Now, there are other occupations like this is for the general occupations. Restaurant manager is open at the moment. Hotel and motel manager is open at the moment. So depending, if you fall under any of those occupations, what I've just discussed about, you need to see whether you get eligible to, how do you get the skill assessment, because to apply for any application, state nominated visa or state regional nominated visa, you have to have a skill assessment. So we need to see whether you meet the requirement to get a positive skill assessment or not. So to apply for permanent residency, that's the very first step towards your dream to achieve permanent residency. You need to see how do you get your skill assessment from the nominated authority for your nominated occupation. So Queensland, like I said, we are pretty much covered for Queensland. IT, accounting, and engineering. What are the options available at this stage? Now, moving forward, let's move on to the next one, which is New South Wales. Right, for New South Wales, obviously, I'm pretty much sure there are a lot of applicants out there who are aware of the requirements for New South Wales, because if you are, if you're struggling with a high score in PT or IELTS, and you're planning to apply for 190 or 489, it's not easy to receive an invitation from New South Wales state government with 55, like minimum eligibility to apply for 190 is 55 points and 489 would be 50 points. But it doesn't mean that if you meet that requirement, you will be getting invitation, because depending what occupation you're applying for, considering the occupation which are in pro rata, this is especially for the occupation which are in pro rata, IT, accounting, engineering, which falls under, majority of the occupations falls under pro rata. So you may not be able to get invitation with 55 or 50 points for 190 or 489 application. So there are high requirements for these occupations. For IT at the moment, if we talk about on an average, we are receiving invitation with 70 plus 5. So if you got 70 points by your own, you get 5 points from state. So if you're from IT background, you can expect an invitation with 75 points, which includes the state nomination point as well. Now for accounting, that's not easy. As you know, we haven't had any invitation for 189 less than 75 points. So accounting still sits on 75 points. So with accounting, I would say if you got 75 plus 5 points, then you can expect an invitation from New South Wales state government with 80 points, which is, I know it's really hard, but this is unfortunately what's happening at the moment. There are a lot of prospective applicants with higher score. They are getting invitation first, and those who are struggling with PT or who do not have experience or who haven't done professionally courses, they are struggling with higher points. So with IT, like I said, 70 plus 5 from state, you can expect an invitation, but again, that may take a bit of time. And for accounting, 75 plus 5, you can expect an invitation soon. With engineering, depending where you fall, majority of the occupation need you to have minimum 65 points plus 5 points from state, so that makes it 70 points. You can expect an invitation from New South Wales for 190 if you got 65 points by yourself and 5 points from state. So including the state nomination points, let's talk about IT. IT, you got to have minimum 675. That includes state nomination points, 5 points from state. And engineering, you got to have 70 points, 5 points from state, including in it. And for accounting, I would say 75 or 80 minimum. You have to expect an invitation for 190. And talking about trade occupations, it's easier because majority of the trade occupations, they are not on the pro rata basis. So say if you're a cook, chef, motor mechanic, there are a lot of options available to you if you are from trade background. So the good thing is that it doesn't fall under pro rata basis. So even if you have say 55 points or 60 points, the more points you have, the better chances you have to get an invitation from the state government. So even if you have 55 points, you may not get invitation for 190. But at the same time, I would suggest you to apply for 489 as well, which is state regional sponsorship. So with New South Wales, there are a lot of different regional areas. We've got Southern Inland, Far South Coast, Orana, Riverina. So if you look into these states for 489 option, there are a lot of other options available to you. Talking about 489, there are few options available to engineers, IT, and engineers, IT, and trade occupations. So accounting, unfortunately, there are not many options available for 489. But talking about engineering options for 489, if you have, say, like if you are an electrical engineer or structural, like you got structural engineering outcome from Engineers Australia. One of the one of the state regional area which is offering 489 sponsorship at this stage would be Northern Inland. So with Northern Inland, if you have got 50 points by yourself, so you get 10 points from state regional area, and you got if you have done bachelor's in electrical engineering, or if you've done bachelor's in electrical engineering back home, and if you can get a positive skill assessment as an electrical or structural engineering, obviously you can't rely on electrical engineering bachelor's. You have to have relevant studies for structural engineering. So if you got 50 points, you do not have to provide a job offer letter. As long as you made 50 points, you can apply for New South Wales 489 and Northern Inland. So there is an option for engineers out there, electrical engineers with 50 points as well. Now for mechanical, far south coast, that's one of the other options for mechanical engineers. If you look into the criteria, if you have an outcome as a mechanical engineer, I mean, the reason why I'm discussing about 489 as well, because this is good. Like if you are on 485 visa, you're straight. I think it's back on again. Really sorry about that, guys. I think we got some issues with the internet today. I'm really sorry about that. So yeah, getting back onto what we were talking before. So for engineering, like I discussed before, structure and electrical engineers have an option to go to Northern Inland with a 489 option. So mechanical engineers can look for far south coast for 489. And software, like for IT accounting, like for IT background applicants, they can go for for far south coast. It may be an option for them. For software engineers, if you're if you got your assessment done as a computer and network engineer, you may need 7 each. Obviously, for depending what state we are, with New South Wales, depending which particular regional area we are applying for, there are certain additional requirements. So some of the state may require you to have minimum 7 each with 2 years of paid experience. So now particularly with IT, if you have got your skill assessment done as a computer network and system engineer, Southern Inland, that's one of the other regional area you may be eligible to apply for 489. So I would say if you get onto internet, or if you can ring one of our offices to find out what are the requirements for Southern Inland if you want to apply for 489 visa as a computer network and system engineer, I'm pretty much sure we would be able to help you with that. And same goes with telecommunication engineers as well. And this is again for 489 visa. And the reason why I'm suggesting you to go for 489 visa, reason being, if you're on a, like say, 485 visa, you're struggling with your PT score, you're trying your best to achieve the best scores you can, but still you haven't managed to get the score what you want for, that makes you eligible to apply for 189 or 190 visa. I would say still these options are available to you. At least apply for 489 visa. But say if your 489 visa gets granted, that doesn't stop the world. I mean, you can still keep trying for your score. Say 6 months later, if you get the right score, you can always apply for 190 visa. So if you do not want to live in that particular area, because for 489 it's not a direct permanent residency application, it's a provisional PR, that's what we call it. But that leads to the permanent residency. And but again, 489, it is an option. I mean, I would say this option is there. Do not let this opportunity go. I mean, if you're struggling with your score, if you're about to complete your temporary graduate visa, if you're at the end of temporary graduate visa, rather than applying for student visa or looking for any other option for you, at least go for 489 visa. That gives you an assurity that you will be in Australia, and that you can make yourself eligible down the track to apply for any other applications. And keep trying for IELTS or PTE by all means, but rather than going back onto student visa after 485, it would be a good option to at least apply for 489 visa. Now, for cook and chef trade occupations, for Orana, there are options available for them. This is one of the regional area that falls under New South Wales category. Orana, this is one of the regional area there. cook and chef 489, if you want to apply, you may be eligible to apply directly for 489 if you are a cook or a chef. But like I said, there are a lot of occupations I can talk about, but particular occupations, particular requirement, we need to check. We need to find out, okay, what exactly the requirements for your occupation is. And the whole idea, again, I'm repeating my words again before I said the same thing, that we are just covering up the generic requirements just to, make people aware out there how do they get eligible to apply for state applications, considering 189 is getting tough nowadays. So it is really important for you to know, how do you make yourself eligible to apply for 190 or 489 application if you're not eligible to apply for 189 application. Now, moving on forwards, we have covered so far ACT state nomination, Victoria state nomination, Queensland state nomination, New South Wales state nomination. Now, let's talk about South Australia. South Australia is one of the states, it's not easy to get through. I mean, they've got a bit of, some difficult requirements, but I'll tell you about the generic requirements what South Australia have. But they've got heaps of requirements for a different occupation. So when I say heaps of requirement, we need to assess the case particularly for a particular occupation. So it's not easy for me to explain everything about South Australia. If you are an IT background or accounting or engineering or trade occupation, there are certain requirements. You may be eligible for only 190, you may be eligible only for 489. So again, we need to see, okay, what occupations we are applying for, whether you meet the requirements for South Australia or not. So let's talk about the general requirements for South Australia. First requirement, obviously, it's not that easy to meet. You have to have 1 year of experience in South Australia if you want to, meet the criteria for South Australia state nomination. So if you have an experience for 1 year in South Australia, you get eligible to apply for state nomination application. Now, if you're a recent graduate, we need to see again, okay, which category you falls under. If you have done a diploma course or a certificate level course, or if you've done your bachelor's or master's, then the requirements are different again. So for recent graduates, there are different requirements for it. But if you one of the most common and one famous requirement is if you've got 1 year of experience in South Australia, you get eligible to apply for state nomination application. Now, one of the toughest would be high points requirement. So South Australia, you'll be got 80 points by yourself. You can apply for 190, you get 5 points, but you have to have 85 points minimum to apply for South Australia state nomination. So 85 points, including state nominated points as well. So if you got 75 points, you can go for 489. If you got 80 points, you can go for 190, depending what occupation and what are the requirements for that particular occupation. Again, we need to look into it and find out what are the additional requirements for that. But like I said, obviously I'm getting a lot of questions on my screen at the moment. All of you would have definitely questions regarding your particular case, that how do I get eligible to apply for this position, or what are the requirements for that state. Like I said, state nomination, doing a Facebook live session for a state nomination requirement, particularly covering all the states, it's not easy. That is the reason why I'm saying we are covering up general requirements. And if you have any particular question about your particular occupation, or if you have experience, or if you have recently graduated from one of the university in a particular state, there may be an option available to you which you're not aware of. So that is the reason why I'm requesting you to get in touch with your migration agent or speak to one of our consultants from one of our offices. We got offices in majority of the states, so you can get in touch with one of our offices in any of the states you're living in: Melbourne, Victoria, Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney, Adelaide, and Perth. So either one of our offices you can get in touch with. So you can talk to our consultant and you can find out what are the best options available to you for a particular state. Now, last option, sorry, I forgot to mention, is chain migration. There's another fourth option available for South Australian state government is chain migration. So with chain migration, you have to have a family member living in South Australia for minimum 12 months. So when I say family member, it has to be either your parents, brother, sister. So you have to have a direct blood relation with the person. So even if it's if it's your uncle, aunt, you may not be eligible to fall under the category of chain migration. So it has to be directly blood related, like I said, brother, sister, then only you meet the criteria, and they have to have been living in South Australia for minimum 12 months. So that's how you meet the requirements. So I'll rephrase it again. I'll repeat my words again for South Australian requirement. either 1 year of minimum experience in South Australia, or you fall under the chain migration where you have to have your relative living in South Australia for 12 months, or you have to have higher points requirement, which is like I said before, minimum 85 points requirement at this stage. And the last would be recent graduate. So if you're a recent graduate, depending what occupation you have, what occupation you have nominated, you may be eligible to apply for state nomination requirement. Now, with South Australia, I would like to bring into your notice, this is specifically for those applicants who are currently, if you're currently on 485 visa, I'm not sure how many of you know about this. If you're currently on 485 visa, you may be eligible to, and if you're planning to, especially if you're from health background, and if you're planning to study nursing, either bachelor's or diploma, the problem with nursing is that, if you're on 485 visa, if you get enrolled in diploma of nursing, you find it hard by the end of the course. You do not have enough time left to make you eligible to apply for either 190 or 489. So obviously, just to give you an example, if you've recently graduated, like say, just for an example, Masters of Public Health Science, if you've completed, if you move to South Australia and if you study the Diploma of Nursing, this is basically Diploma of Nursing, which takes about roughly 18 months to complete. And once you complete your Diploma of Nursing, which is 18 months, you still have 2 or 3 months, to get your skill assessment done and everything, which takes a bit of time. Because if you do diploma, considering if you got 24 months of visa, you move to South Australia, you completed your course in 18 months, you keep yourself with another 3 months to get your APRA registration done and your ANMAC skill assessment done as a enrolled nurse. That still leaves you maybe another 2 to 3 months. And if you have enough score, like if you've got enough points, when I say enough points, if you've got required ALS or PTE or OET score, like 7 each, if you're good to go with that, like even if you complete your course and if you have got your skill assessment done, you can straight away apply for 489 in South Australia. So that's one of the good option available in South Australia. So if you're a recent graduate and if you applied for a 485 visa, you can move to South Australia. You can get enrolled into for Diploma of Nursing, which takes about 18 months. You can get your registration done. That takes registration and skill assessment done within 2 to 3 months after that. So still you have 2 to 3 months left to be to be eligible to apply for 489 visa. But there's a very good chance you'll get an invitation for South Australia if you have done a Diploma of Nursing. Now, if you need more information about that, speak to our office in any of our offices. We do have office in Adelaide, so if you want to speak to our representative in Adelaide, you can ring our office in Adelaide and they would be able to give you more information. But if you're residing in any other state, please get in touch with one of our respective offices and we would be able to give you more information about the option available for 489 nursing applicants. Now, let's move on forward, guys. Like I said, I've covered pretty much ACT, Victoria, Queensland, New South Wales, South Australia, Tasmania, which used to be a very hot state a few months ago, but some of the requirements have been changed from Tasmania. Now, Tasmania, let's talk about Tasmania because it's hard to remember everything because Tasmania, they recently made few changes. Now, let's talk about 190 for Tasmania from 1st of October onwards, which is probably in next couple of weeks. Before the option was like if you have a job offer letter in your nominated occupation, you were eligible to apply for 190 or 489 occupation. Obviously you didn't need the nominated job offer letter in your nominated occupation for 489, but for 190 that was a requirement. You have to have a job offer letter in your nominated occupation. But recently this is the change they're going to implement from 1st of October onwards, 2017. In the next couple of weeks, you have to have a minimum 3 months of experience with a job offer letter as well. So they have put on this additional requirement that you need to have this job offer letter and minimum 3 months of experience to apply for Tasmanian state sponsorship, 190 or 489. It goes for both. Either for 190 or 489, you have to have minimum 3 months of experience and a job offer letter to be eligible to apply for Tasmanian state government. Now, a lot of applicants have moved to Tasmania in last, I would say, 6 to 8 months, considering, when we had this news that Tasmanian state government is open for 190 and 489. That is right. People who have, like applicants who enrolled themselves before 31st of July 2017, they are still considered to be into the old rules. Like they still fall under the category of old rules. They still get eligible to apply for 190 and 489 down the track. But if you're planning to get enrolled into, like if you're planning to do a course in Tasmania, unfortunately, they have changed the requirements. So from 1st of January 2018, you have to study minimum 2 years of 2 year of studies in Tasmania. So if you haven't enrolled in Tasmania before 31st of July 2017, you will fall under the category of new rules, which says you have to complete minimum 2 years of studies in Tasmania to be eligible for 190 or for 189, it's still 1 year. So I'll repeat my words again. This is only for 190. 190, if you want to get into the category for 190, you have to meet the criteria for 2 year study in Tasmania. But for 489, still the 1 year requirement is there. So you do not have to study 2 years to get eligible for 489. You can study 1 year there and you're still eligible to apply for 489 application. Now, from 1st of July, this year, like a couple of months ago, they've put on this additional requirement. So from 1st of July 2017, we had this requirement before. If you had a family relative living in Tasmania for last 12 months, you were eligible to apply for 190 or 489. But from 1st of July onwards, this option is only available for 489 applicants, not available for 190 applicants anymore. So if you got a family relative living in Tasmania for last 12 months, and if you're planning to apply recently, if you're planning to apply for 190 or 489 in next couple of weeks or couple of months, you can only apply for 489. You wouldn't be eligible to apply for 190. That requirement has been changed from 1st of July. So if you've got a family relative there living in Tasmania, you can only apply for 489, not for 190. And for 489, there's additional requirement you need to meet because we had a lot of applicants in the past, if you wanted to apply for 190 or 489, you had to have a job offer letter from an employer in Tasmania and you were eligible to apply for 190 or 489. Especially if you're planning to apply for 489, if you have a job offer letter from an employer in Tasmania, you need to prove that a local labor market testing has been done. What it means that and your employer has made enough efforts to find a local person there. So when I say a local person, they have made enough efforts to find an Australian citizen or a permanent resident to find that whether they found any particular person for that particular job or not. And if not, obviously they have to provide a reason why, they didn't select any of the applicant who applied for the jobs, any local person, and this is the reason why they want to provide you a job offer letter. So basically it's called the labor market testing. You need to provide an evidence that proper labor market testing has been done before you apply for 489's application. So this applies for 489 and 190 as well. Now, one of the last requirements for 489, it's pretty tough nowadays. If you have good experience, just to give you an example, as a cook or as a motor mechanic, or if you got a good experience in IT, or if you've been working in a laundry or any other XYZ business, if you've got good experience, you can prepare a business plan and submit to Tasmanian state government. So they will assess your business plan. So you have to provide the information, okay, well, you've got this much experience in this particular field and you've got plans to open up a business in Tasmania. And they will assess your skills. I mean, when I say assess, they will go through your business plan. They will see your business strategies, how you're going to do the marketing, and how you're going to promote your business in the local community. So if the Tasmanian government is satisfied, you may receive an invitation from Tasmanian state government. But this is called business plan. So this is just a requirement. If you prepare a business plan, if the Tasmanian state government gets satisfied, you may receive an invitation to apply for 489 application as well. So, like I said, there are a few options available in Tasmania as well. So, but like I mentioned before at the start of this Facebook Live session, ACT, which is Canberra, is one of the hot state at the moment. I would say, if you're still thinking to move to Canberra for your future options, I would say this is the right time to go there and get enrolled in a course. And if you can find out a part-time job there or a full-time, depending what visa you're on. Or if you're on student visa and if you study 1 year course there, and if you work part-time 20 hours a week, after you finish your course, you will be eligible to apply for most likely you'll be eligible to apply for ACT state nomination. But if you're on 485 visa, you got to show that you've been working full-time 6 months minimum, and you got to show that you've completed minimum 1 year course in not Tasmania, sorry, ACT, which is Canberra. Now, last but not the least, I'll be coming up with Northern Territory state nomination. So they've got a bit of strict requirement as well. I know it's not easy to meet the requirements for each and every single state, but that is the reason why we want to bring this up to make you aware, okay, well, depending on the circumstances, depending on the state which you live in, and depending on the studies you've completed, depending on the experience you have, you may be eligible to apply for one of the states we have discussed so far. So for NT, which is Northern Territory, talking about Darwin, they've got a requirement. You must have been living in Northern Territory for 6 months, and you must have been working in your nominated occupation for 6 months. So basically, you must have been living in the Northern Territory for 6 months, been working in Northern Territory for 6 months, and you have to have a job offer letter from an employer in Northern Territory who is willing to provide you a job. So these are the main requirements, I would say. There are few occupations, IT, accounting, and engineering. These occupations are open there. If you have a look, if you get onto the website for Northern Territory State Nomination Occupation List, most of the occupations are open there. But again, meeting the requirements for being there for 6 months, and working in your nominated occupation for 6 months, it's not easy to get to, which I completely understand, but like I said, we are trying to cover up everything what other states require for the particular occupation. So 6 months living, 6 months working, and a job offer letter from a Northern Territory employer. These are the basic requirements. And one of the main thing I would bring into your notice would be for the applicants who are working in Northern Territory on 457 visa. So if you're in Northern Territory on 457 visa, if you recently got your 457 visa approved, and if you've been living in Northern Territory for 6 months, and if you've been working 6 months in Northern Territory, you may be eligible to apply for Northern Territory state nomination. So this is an advantage for applicants who have been in Northern Territory on 457 visa. So 6 months living, 6 months working, and a job offer letter for future. If you can provide this evidence to to Northern Territory state government, there is a good chance you will receive an invitation to apply for state nomination application requirements. So I'll be taking a few questions now. I tried my best to cover up as much as I could for IT, accounting, and engineering occupation, but like I said, it's not easy for me to cover every single thing. If you can speak to one of our offices, one of our representatives from any of our offices, we will be able to give you more information over the phone, or you can book in a consultation and come into our office and for a face-to-face consultation. So yeah, I'll go through the questions which I've been getting on my screen, and I'll try my best to provide you as much as I can, but it wouldn't be possible for us to answer all the questions at the same time. So please allow us some time to get back to you if we could not answer all of your questions, but I'll take a few questions from you now. Just a moment, guys. All right, so the question I've got on my screen is from Mr. Saddam Hussein Jitu. I'm an accounting student, but I have done double major in finance and accounting. I'm sitting on 70 points. Is there any possibility for a chance on state nomination? Right, so Mr. Saddam, if you have done accounting, you have done major in finance and accounting. You haven't mentioned which state you have completed your qualification from. Depending which state you reside in, I'm not sure which state you're in, but if you are in Queensland, just for an example, if you've done major in accounting and finance, you may be eligible to apply as a finance manager, depending when did you complete your studies. So if you recently completed your master's, like when I say recently, again, that has to be within the last 2 years. So not like if you have completed your master's 2 or 3 years ago, for Queensland, this is particularly for Queensland, if you have completed your master's within the last 2 years, you may be eligible to apply for Queensland state nomination as a finance manager. But depending what state you reside in, there may be requirements for that. With 70 points, I would say you can try for New South Wales, but again, there may be a wait time for New South Wales. You may not get the invitation with 70 points, so you may have to wait for a bit of time. So like I said, I can't answer that question straight away, depending which state you reside in and what are the options available to you. With 70 points, there is a bit of wait at this stage, so I would say the best advice would be to try to get 8 each and try to score as much as you can so that you get eligible to apply for 189. So moving on to the next question, guys. I've got the other one in on my screen is Mr. Aussizz Khan. Look, I got my 489 from far south coast New South Wales. Can I move to any regional or have to stick to that area? All right, Mr. Aussizz, that's a pretty good question, and a lot of applicants do ask this question to us, whether they have to reside in that particular area if they've been granted 489 visa or not. So if you look at your visa conditions, I'm pretty much sure you will have a nil visa condition, but you have to reside in a regional area. So basically, if you are living in a regional area and you're meeting the requirements, it doesn't have to be that particular regional area. If you move to a different regional area, as long as you're meeting the requirement, for 489, which states that you have to live in a regional area for minimum 2 years and you have to work minimum 1 year before you apply for 887 visa, which is a permanent residency visa. So basically, as long as you meet that requirement to apply for 887 visa and you're not reaching the condition for 489, which says you have to be in a regional area for 4 years, but to be basically what I'm trying to get to is it should be all right as long as you do not breach the condition. So if you're living in a regional area, I would not recommend you to move to a metropolitan city. So just to give you an example, say if you're living in Victoria, if you're living in Bendigo, if you're on 489 visa there, I wouldn't say move to Melbourne or Sydney. I would say if you can move to, say, from Bendigo, if you move to Ballarat or Geelong, which falls under the regional area, you still would be okay with that. So yeah, as long as you're not breaching the condition of your 489 visa, that should be okay. I hope that answers your question, Aussizz. And let's move on to the next question, guys. The next one I've got is from Gary Randhawa, chef with 1 year experience in sitting on 55 points. Right, Gary, with 1 year of experience, that's a bit of concern for me, because just for my concern, do you have a positive skill assessment? Because with 1 year of experience as a chef, there are only two ways you can get, there's only one way to get a positive skill assessment with 1 year of experience, as long as you have done a job ready program. So I don't know if you already got a positive skill assessment or not. If you do have a positive skill assessment, I would say you go for New South Wales. There is a very good chance if you apply to New South Wales with 55 points as a chef, there is a good chance you will receive an invitation from New South Wales. But again, I'm not sure if you already got a positive skill assessment or not, because the requirement is you have to have minimum 3 years of full-time experience, or you must have done a job ready program if you want to apply as a chef. So depending in your circumstances where you fall, but to answer your question, yes, you are eligible with 55 points as long as you meet the requirements for the state with 55 points for chef occupation. So let's move on to the next question, guys. The next one I've got on my screen is I'm an external auditor with 4 years of experience back home and 6 months in New Zealand. New South Wales, my bad. So, Mr. Johan, you are an external auditor with 4 years of experience back home. So obviously that experience you have got is overseas, obviously not in Australia, and you've got 6 months in New South Wales. So assuming you got the qualification, you got the skill assessment, there is an option for you to go for 489. So with 489, I would say, depending what's your score in IELTS as well. So that's one of the other thing we need to look into. Internal and external auditor, like I said, there is an option available for you if you got minimum 2 years of experience, which obviously you do meet that criteria. And if you got 7 each, yes, you can go for 489. So there is an option available to you for as an internal or external auditor. I mean, obviously your occupation is external auditor, so you can go for as an external auditor for 489. So yeah, I mean, if you need to find out what which particular region is offering the sponsorship for 489 for external auditor, please get in touch with one of our officers and they would be able to give you more information. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for today. Like I said, we still receiving few questions on screen, and we need some time to respond to all your questions. And I hope you would have got some information about the state requirements for the particular state if you're planning to apply for 190 or 489. But like I said, I mean, still, if you're struggling with score, try your best to be eligible to get yourself eligible for 190 or 489 application, which is a state nominated visas, either state nominated or state nominated regional visa. So this is basically very important for those applicants who are struggling for 189. So even if you have an option for 489, I would say do not let this go, because apply for 489. Even if you got 489 visa, you can keep trying for your better score in IELTS or PT, or you can do NADI, and there is always an option for you to apply for 190 visa as well, being on 489. So rather than going back onto your student visa after 485, or looking for keep trying for IELTS or PT, if you have an option available for you to apply for 489, I would strongly recommend and suggest you to go for 489 visa if you are meeting the requirement. But like I said before as well, the whole idea behind doing this Facebook Live session is to make you aware there may be an option available for you you may be meeting the requirements for a particular state which you're not aware of. So get in touch with our offices, which we have in pretty much all the states in Australia. So we would be able to give you more information over the phone, or if you want to come into the office, book a consultation in. We would be happy to provide you as much as information we can and see if you meet the eligibility criteria or not. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys, for today, and thanks a lot for your time to watch this Facebook Live session. We will be conducting few more Facebook sessions in next few weeks, so just stay with us, just keep an eye on our Facebook page. We always update what Facebook sessions we're gonna do in future. So, and yeah, that's pretty much it for today, and thanks for watching our video, and good luck with your PD score, and good luck with your eligibility criteria, and I wish you all the best. Thanks very much, guys.